Hey everybody, it's Anna. Welcome back to my Fluid Art channel and thank you so much for stopping by. Today I am doing a resin project, so I'm using my tabletop resin again. You might have seen that I used this to make a couple of trays a couple months ago, but I'm trying out a new resin mixer. So this one is from Let's Resin. You might have seen the video where I show this resin mixer from Estoyo, which is fantastic, but as you can see it's got quite a small mixing paddle, so it's great for a small cup of resin, like 8-10 ounces or less. That's what this is great for. This is a massive mixing cup, so this one is ideal for much larger amounts. Let's say you're doing a big table or like a very large resin project. This is designed for doing that. So let's unbox this and see what's inside. That's huge. Okay, so it comes with, how many is this? 10 of these big cups, and a user guide, and a charger cord, because it's not battery powered, it is rechargeable, which is a great feature. And it's got a little cleaning tool with like a pick on one end and a scraper so that you can really get into all the crevices and get anything cleaned out that you need to. But how does this work? So they're just cups, and I imagine you can buy these from Let's Resin. I don't know how many big projects you're doing. This comes with plenty. So it says maximum 32 ounces, but it's for large amounts. So you'd put your stuff right in there, and then you'd, this just slides right on there. And then you stick it down in, and you press the button. Whoa, look at that go. So apparently this goes for about 40 seconds, and then it stops, or you can stop at any time by pressing that button. So it's got lots of paddles. Clearly this would not fit in a small cup. It would only fit in a big cup like this. So I don't know that the project that I'm doing today warrants quite this much resin, but we're going to head out to the garage and mix up some of this tabletop resin and use it to cover that beautiful Dutch pour wooden tabletop surface that I did a couple weeks back. So let's get to it. Okay, so a very important note before we start using resin. Please, please, please make sure that you are properly protected from the resin and the resin vapors. That means working in a well-ventilated space, and it means completely covering your skin with a Tyvek suit, nitrile gloves, and either a full-face respirator or sealed, non-vented goggles and a respirator with cartridges that filter organic vapors. Please do not risk your health for a craft, no matter how cool it is. All right, let's get to work. Okay, so let's mix up our resin. So I'm going to start with the part B, which is the hardener. It's a thinner consistency, so if you put it at the bottom of your cup, it makes the resin easier to mix. So take that carefully to one line. I think I did 6 ounces of each. And now I'm doing the part A, which is the actual resin portion, and putting in an equal volume of that. So the measurements on the side of the cup are really handy. Just make sure that you get it exact. So I'm going to scrape down the sides just to make sure everything's down at the bottom, then insert the mixer. So the 12 ounces of resin did not quite cover the paddles of the mixer, which probably puts in a few more air bubbles than you would get if the mixer was completely submerged in the resin. But it does a great job mixing. It goes for about 40 seconds and stops, but as you can see, it was not fully mixed, so I'm going to do it again. Turn it on for another 40 seconds. And then see how it looks. You can tell if your resin is fully mixed if it's crystal clear and you don't see any streaking in it. There's still a bit of streaking here, so I'm going to turn it on again. The more you mix up your resin, the faster it will cure. So if it's a really hot day and you need your resin to be workable for a long time, then you don't want to overmix it. But any other time, if you're wondering, do I have this properly mixed or not, mixing it a little bit extra is the safer way to do it. But then you put it in the other cup and you turn it on again. And as the paddles spin, it kind of shoots off the extra resin drips into the side of the cup. It's like using a lettuce spinner. So that's pretty cool. Then I'm just going to stir it by hand a little bit just to make sure that I'm scraping the sides and really getting every bit that might have been stuck to the bottom or the sides. Time to set up the tabletop. So I'm going to put this on some cups here, and then I'm going to use some little bubble levels just to make sure that this is level. So I'm pouring it out, and then I'm going to use this sort of flat scraper, which came in one of my resin sets. I don't remember whether this came in the tabletop set or just the regular epoxy resin kit that I got, but it's great for spreading and smoothing a large resin surface. So I just want to make sure that I'm getting the whole area covered all the way up to the edge. And then once that's covered, then I will spread it along the sides. A lot of people, when they work with resin, they just use their gloved hand to kind of smear it around. And if I had put on a second glove, I probably would have done that, but I didn't want to get my glove really dirty. So instead of rubbing it with my hand, I used my popsicle stick to spread it around, which took a little bit more time, but it still works just as well. Now the edge is a hard place to cover just because the resin is always wanting to drip down and kind of pull away from it. So I had to go around a couple of times, adding it, smoothing it, making sure there were no pockets where it wasn't there. Once I had the sides covered, then I took my torch and started popping the air bubbles on the main surface. There were a fair amount of air bubbles because of how the resin got mixed. Because it wasn't deep enough to cover the paddles, some air bubbles did get incorporated into the mix. Using a torch is really helpful for getting those out. So then once I had the first pass done on torching, I'm going back around and touching up the sides, adding resin in places where maybe it's pulled away, and just making sure I get a nice smooth covering all the way around. So that's what I continued to do for another few minutes. Do a little bit of torching, do a little bit of smoothing of the sides, just multiple passes. I even torched the sides, though there were not many air bubbles there. So I'm getting out a couple of little hairs or bits of dust that fell into the surface. Some more torching. That's basically all it is at this point. So now that it's finished, I've got the paddle here and I'm trying to wipe it off just with an alcohol wipe, which is what I do with my other resin mixers. I try to wipe them off while the resin is wet. Because this one has so many paddles, it's just impossible to do that. So instead I'm going to let the resin dry on it because the box says it's easy to clean and the resin should just pop off. So we will see how that works once the resin has dried. So now I believe I'm pretty much finished with this. A few final passes on the torch, and then I'm going to take a popsicle stick and catch the drips and sort of scrape the drips off from the underneath side. I do have tape on the underside, but still, the less drips, the better. And then I think I'm finished. This is looking great to me. So usually I cover my resin projects with a plastic bin to keep them completely sealed off from dust and bugs and things like that, but this is too large for any of my bins. So instead, I'm just using a piece of foam board to cover it. So I'm just propping that up on some cups, putting the foam board over the top, and there we have it. I will be back when this is dry and I'll show you how I add the table legs. So let me show you how the resin comes off of this mixing paddle. You can see how all of those drips have dried, but it really does pop right off. You see? So it is quite easy to clean. Now, it's hard for me to get my fingers in every little area, so I will have to use that cleaning tool that came in the kit to just get stuff from all of the little corners. But the material that it's made of is something that resin releases right off of, so that's wonderful that you can get it fully cleaned without having to, wipe it while it's wet. It does make it very, very easy. So now moving on to the table legs, I went ahead and peeled up the tape from the back of the wood And now I'm going to lay out these hairpin table legs or something like that. I ordered those on eBay, so I'm just laying them out in a nice square, getting them all set up and balanced right. So now my husband and I are marking those holes where the screws need to go so that he can drill some little pilot holes for the screws to go in. Even if you don't have a power drill, you could still do this with just a regular screwdriver. So that was quite a simple process. Just lay it out, drill a few holes, and then it's time to actually put the screws in. So first table leg, just one by one, I'm putting in those screws, and they went in really, really easily there. Using pre-made table legs definitely turns this into a simple project. It's a lot easier than trying to construct your own table legs. All right, and here's the last leg. It went really easily. Let me show you how this table looks, all set up and all finished. Okay, here it is. So I've got it in my little nautical corner of my dining room. Goes really well in here. Oh, it's so cool, guys. So the metal table legs came with these little rubber feet, which help protect the floor, so that's great. I probably could have gotten away with only using 3 legs on here, since it's such a small table. But since 4 came in the set, that's what I used. So let's look at the table here. So you see the sides. It's not a perfect coat, but it is still quite smooth. You know, resin got on all of it. It didn't really pull away completely from anything. It's just not a perfect coat. But on the top, almost perfection. It's so reflective. It's so shiny. This is not good light for being able to see the metallics, so I'll try to get another angle where the light's better. But my goodness, it made a really wonderful coating to this. And the metallics shine so much better under resin than they would even from just a gloss varnish. So thank you all for joining me for this process of finishing this tabletop. It's been a really great experiment, and I absolutely love how this table turned out. I hope it inspired you to try something new. Let me know down in the comments, have you ever painted a table or finished it with resin? I would love to hear your stories. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys!